All right, welcome. Another episode. Have a go of Corey for Cheeky. Got one of the greats, Bert Kenny, right? Old super coach, under 20 super coach for myself. But I'll rattle off a couple of his stats here. So Parramatta great, New South Wales great. It's all rugby league, obviously. Australia great. Played over at Wigan, so 290 professional games, 129 meat pies. 17 games for New South Wales, 17 for Australia, 4 for New South Wales City, 4 GFs, part of the Invincibles, World Cup winner, Clive Churchill medalist, Challenge Cup winner. Man of the match as well in that, so it's like another Clive Churchill over there. Golden Boot, in the list of the 100 greatest players of all time, but I reckon your biggest achievement, mate, coaching the under-20s, 2006, Penrith Panthers GF. But yeah, man, you just came in before. It's the first time I've seen you in a while. It's good to see you. Like, how's your health and everything going? You know,
yeah, mate, it's good. All going well, and it's good to be here. Nice little setup you've got here, and you know, I must say, it sort of didn't surprise me when you said you had a gym and that. You know, you were always one of those guys who train hard, and obviously forward, they all do that. Unlike the backs, you know, the Michael Jennings and the Jeff Daniellas and the Jared Zammets, they wouldn't do any training. Daniel King, he used to do a bit, you know. But, I found that, you know, all you guys, the forwards were the ones that would train hard. The backs would just run around doing nothing.
That's right, mate. You're a back anyway. Oh, you finished in the forwards, but
finished in the forward. They had to try and rough my face up because I was actually, you know, a bit too good looking for a lot of the guys, and so they thought put me in the forwards to rough me up a little bit, see if I could. Didn't work, as you can see.
So back in the day, mate, what give us a bit of a background, like where you grew up and that for people. Most people would probably know where you grew up, but
yeah, well, actually, the funny thing is when you look at Wikipedia, they've got me down as born in Gerringong, and I was actually born at Canterbury Hospitals, and so I was living at Marrickville, you know, between 1 and 4. And when I was 5 years of age, moved out to Greystones, which is out in the western suburbs area.
You're a Westie, mate.
Yeah, grew up there, went to school there, went to Sherwood Grange Public School and then Holroyd High School. Played for Guildford Rugby League, and so from there, from playing Rugby League at Guildford, then got graded at Parramatta, and I was a South supporter and as a kid, and obviously once I started playing at Parramatta, I always remember I think it was under 23s or maybe reserve grade. We played. I was playing reserve grade, I think, against South at Redfern Oval, and I'm sitting there on the bench after the reserve grade game for first grade. And back then, anyone could sit on the bench. You generally sat there because it was the best place to watch the game, you know. And next thing I got a tap on the shoulder, and I had to go on to replace Tony Melrose, who tore a hamstring. So my first taste of first grade was against South Sydney. But when I'm sitting on the bench, I was watching the game, hoping that South would hit the front. And you know, but then once I started playing first grade, well, obviously, you know, I wanted to win for Parramatta. But yeah, even though I was playing at Parramatta, when I was playing lower grades, I was always hoping that Parramatta. South Sydney would go pretty close to winning in the first grade, but that was the way it was. You know.
Do you still follow Souths now? Or more
I have a bit of interest in them, you know, but it's the same with Parramatta. You have a bit of an interest in how they go, and I look at it this way. I've got no input with the club, and so it doesn't bother me whether they win or lose, but you just like to see them play well. And obviously with someone like Michael Jennings in the side of Parramatta now, who's played with you in that side of the under-20s in 2006, so you know, there's a bit of interest there, see how he goes, and he's going okay at the moment. So,
how old were you when you debuted there? You were a young pup, weren't you?
Yeah, I was 13 and a half. No, I was 19 years of age, and
nice mullet.
Oh, I had all that. Yeah. Didn't have the moustache, couldn't grow a moustache then, but I was 19. It's funny because I think back about it, and 1979 I was playing C grade at Guildford, which was I think under 18s or under 19s, and here it was 1980. I was playing first grade at Parramatta, so it was a bit of a quick rise, but I think in a lot of ways it wasn't too hard for me because I didn't have time to think about it. It just happened so quickly, and then I had so many good players around. I was playing outside Mick Cronin in 1980, and I've always said, I believe the reason I was able to go on and achieve what I did was because of the fact that I played outside Mick Cronin in the early part of my career as a 19-year-old, and he looked after me and made sure I grew into the position and grew into first grade. It didn't sort of let me get knocked around too much, and that was good. I gained a lot of confidence then.
So were you always the young gun kid coming through? Because you were like, I've only seen highlight clips of you. You used to put on in the videos all the time when we're doing our video review, highlights package. But you seem like you were just like natural, like you were just a footy player, like naturally talented. Did you have to work really hard at it, or is it that you sort of born with it? So to
I
speak?
really think it was. Look, I played baseball as a young bloke in the summertime. A lot of my mates from school played cricket. I actually come from a baseballing family. My dad and my uncle both played for Australia, and I guess in a way they were. You would class them as the chapels of baseball. So you got Ian Chappell, Greg Chappell of cricket, and I had my dad and my uncle as chapels of baseball. Everybody knew who they were, and obviously when I started playing baseball, everyone's assumed that I'm just going to be a great baseballer, and I went okay. But I think having played baseball helped with my hand-eye coordination, and playing rugby league, it was just a natural thing. I never sort of really practiced at anything in particular. Just did my training and run around with the ball, and as I said, I guess in the summertime I'm running around playing baseball, and then winter time, well, now I've got a football which is a lot bigger. But I think that's probably one of the things that helped me, and it was just more of a natural thing for me.
And what about with baseball? Did you end up just giving that away because footy took over?
Yeah, it was. I was actually when you look at it, I was doing better at baseball in regards to what I had achieved. So I was 17, I was playing first grade baseball, and 17 in rugby league I was just playing under 17s. And then, of course, in 1980 I got graded at Parramatta, and I knew then I'm going to have to give baseball away, because what happened was we had a trial game for the under 23s at Brookvale Oval on a Sunday, and they had about 6 teams to trial, and I was in team number 5. I think we started at around 10:30 in the morning. So luckily enough, we did that. I came off, had a shower, jumped in the car and went back out to Blacktown to play baseball at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we knew then that was going to be it. If I got graded at Parramatta, I was not going to be able to play baseball again in the off-season because it would interfere with the training. And as my dad said to me, he said, look, you're going to earn money playing rugby league, you're not going to earn that playing baseball, son.
What about if you got into the big leagues in overseas? Was that ever cross your mind? Like maybe I'll stick at this and
not so much then, because it wasn't as big then, and they didn't have the scouts coming over from America then. If they had have, maybe it could have changed. I may have been able to go to the States, and who knows what could have happened. But it wasn't the case. So went over and played rugby league at Parramatta, and then I guess, as they say, the rest is history.
Pretty good history for you, definitely sure. So, like you came straight into a winning team, really, eh? Well, 81 you winning your first premiership, is that right? 81?
Yeah. So as I said, I got graded in 1980. I think it was 79. They played in the grand final and got beaten. And as I said earlier, I was a South supporter, so I don't really know exactly. I wasn't following Parramatta all that well, and came in at 1980, and then we actually missed. They had the top 5 then, and we got beaten, I think, in the last game, and that put us out of we didn't make the 5. We needed to win to make the 5, but we won the Amco Cup, it was called then. It was a midweek competition. It went from there to the Panasonic Cup. We won that, and then didn't make the finals in 1980, but in 1981 we changed the coach. John Peard was there in 1980, and I'm always thankful that he was a guy that took a bit of a punt on this young, skinny-looking, blonde-haired bloke, and which was me, and give me an opportunity. And if it wasn't for him, I may not have been able, may not have got a start there in first grade. But he was the one that did it, and give me the start. And then obviously Jack Gibson came in 81, and that's when we won the first premiership.
And then from that as well, you were selected in the Kangaroos. Was that year?
1982 was the
82.
following year, yeah. And the funny thing was, I had no idea about a Kangaroo Tour.
Was that a Kangaroo Tour, the 82?
It was a Kangaroo Tour, and we played in the grand final against Manly, and that night they selected the team to go to England and France. I had no idea about this Kangaroo Tour. I mean, obviously knew that you could represent Australia after playing Origin, and obviously I think I might have had one game of Origin in 82. And just never crossed my mind, and we were back at Parramatta Leagues Club after the grand final, and then they made an announcement over the PA saying, well, this is the squad that's been selected for the Kangaroo Tour to England and France, and we have, I think they said at the time there was 5 or 6 Parramatta players selected, and read the names out, and lo and behold, there was my name, heard my name read out, and thought, geez, it was hard. It was a couple of different emotions went through my body at the time. It felt great to think that I'd been selected to represent Australia and go away on a Kangaroo Tour, and then I thought, geez, I've never been away from Australia before, and I don't know a lot of these guys that I'm going to be touring with. So,
how old were you then? 21?
21. So so it was a bit strange, but then once we got on the tour, it was always good having those Parramatta guys there. We sort of hung together for the first week and a half. Then you get to know everyone and just go out and enjoy yourself and train and play. And
you enjoy yourself?
Oh yeah, I did enjoy myself. I had a great time. We
all used to love your stories. I remember sit around the whole team.
But it was good. Yeah, it was really good. And it was, and like guys that play today, the game today is professional. Back then it wasn't. But when we went on a Kangaroo Tour, that was our first taste of professional rugby league, because that's all we did. We played, trained, and that was it. There was no work involved, and it was good. We had a great time.
How long were the tours back then?
The tours went for 12 weeks,
yeah.
So 3 months. We left in October. We got back the 23rd of December. So, yeah, you're sort of in England for 9 weeks or so, and then the other 2 weeks you're in France. And the way the tour was, I think it was after the 82 tour, they talked about possibly trying to get the powers that be to change the way the tour went, to go to France first, England second, because back then, in France, if you didn't speak French, well, you really couldn't talk to people.
Yeah.
English wasn't that big in France then, and we used to struggle. We couldn't go out much, and we'd be stuck in a motel, and we'd been together for 12 weeks, 11 weeks. Now we're spending time together, a bit like the COVID back in 82, and guys were getting on each other's nerves, and that was a bit of a problem, and that's why they were thinking if we could do French first. Sorry?
Was there any stinks between the boys?
Oh, no, they went close a few times, but, guys sort of settled everyone down. But, yeah, it was a bit of a problem. I mean, in 1986 we did it, and in France, and so we used to just go to the bar of a night, and part of the deal was that you whoever shouted had to start at the top shelf behind the bar, and whatever the drink was, you had to have that, whether it was mixed with something or straight. And when the tour started, everyone was given a number. So you can imagine, I think there was like 22 players plus coaching staff and trainers. So instead of trying to count heads when everyone was in a room for a meeting, they used to call out number off. So someone would say 1, they would 2, 3, and obviously if a number's not called, they know that person's missing. So when it come to the shouts at this bar in the motel in France, well, whoever was number 1 had to buy that drink, and off we went, and you'd order 22 of them. You only ever shouted once. And then I know I was the number after Gary Jack. He was before me. So then they've called up, for him to have a shout, and he's got a reputation of being pretty tight. So Forex sponsored that tour, sent over pallets of beer, and we all had a couple of cartons of Forex in our fridges. So they've called out the number, and he's not there. So they said, oh, well, he's not here. So I've gone and shouted, bought 22 of whatever it was, And off we're gone, and we're starting to drink that. And then he comes back downstairs. He'd been upstairs, got the 2 cartons of beer from his fridge. Said, how about we have a drink of change, we'll have a beer, boys, you know. I said, oh, tight as a fishes.
There's always a couple of them floating around in any group. So, that was a pretty quick rise, eh? Like, from you saying, going from Guildford, Kangaroo Tour within a couple of years, how'd you deal, like, I know there's no social media or anything back then, but you were a pretty gun player straight off the scene, like fresh off the scene. How'd you go with everyone coming up, like, hey, Bert, autographs and that? How was that back then?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. And I think one of the big things for me was the fact of the team that I played in and the guys that I played with. There was a lot of older guys, especially in the forward pack at Parramatta. Obviously, the coaching staff we had, Jack Gibson, very experienced with, you know, working with young guys, and Ron Massey, his assistant. And then, so, you know, you always had these guys, like Steve Edge was the captain, there's a lot of experience, Ray Price was there, Bob O'Reilly, Ronnie Hilditch. You know, the younger blokes we had was Steve Sharp and John Muggleton in the second row, and then out in the backs was all the young guys with Mick Cronin. So it was, you never had a problem of getting too far ahead of yourself. You know, you were always pulled back and had your head pulled in a little bit if you started to get a bit cocky, and so it was good. That was the good thing about it was, you know, as you say, like here it was 1979. I was playing C grade at Guildford. 1982, I'm running around playing for Australia and England. You know, but, so it was everything happened pretty quick. But you know, those guys at Parramatta were the ones that were able to keep you on level ground.
What did you win 3 in a row then, early 80s too, wasn't it?
Yeah, won 81, 82, 83, and actually, and played in 84. So we played in 4 grand finals in a row, won the first 3, lost the 4th one to the Bulldogs.
And then 86 again?
86, yeah, we won it that year, and so we had a pretty good run. Look, from 81 through to 86, the worst place we were able to achieve was to get beaten in the final. So we missed out on the grand final. We got beaten the week before the grand final. Every other year, from 81 to 86, we played in the grand final. So we had a good run, and we had a very good side, obviously, and a lot of internationals in the team after the 82 Kangaroo Tour. But yeah, it was a great side, and obviously playing under Jack Gibson was a great thing to do, and he was a wonderful coach, and he just, you know, thing about him, he just kept everything very simple, and I guess, like as you would probably remember when I was coaching, and you know, you just sort of kept everything pretty simple and everything basic, and I got all that from Jack Gibson, and then John Money took over, and it was always going to be tough for him because we just won 3 in a row. He got us to our 4th one, but we couldn't win it, and then after that we missed the grand final, and then we played in 86 and won it for him. So that was good, you know, because he'd been there for a number of years coaching reserve grade, and when Jack was there and then took over, it was good to see him come away with a premiership.
Hear a few good stories about Jack Gibson. Is there anything that pops out in your head?
Well, one day I got to training, and we were training at a place called Granville Park, because you may remember back in 1981 when we won the Premiership, Cumberland Oval, which was our home ground, got burnt to the ground after the grand final.
I remember watching something on the old when my mum used to smoke the Winnie Blues, and they used to do a footy VHS, like a tape back in the day, and they had something about that on there. I remember watching it as a kid.
We had no idea. We were in the club after the grand final and had no idea that the ground had been burnt down, the grandstand and everything, and it wasn't until the next day.
Insurance job or what?
Oh, I got no idea. But we ended up had to train at Granville Park, and I remember I got out of the car. It would have been 1983, because I'd been away on the Kangaroo Tour, and I never missed a game in the 82 season, and I think I played 1 game of Origin. Went away on a Kangaroo Tour, came back just before Christmas. Just after Christmas, got straight back into training, and off I'd gone. I hadn't had a real break, really. Anyway, I wasn't playing all that well, you know. I was sort of struggling a little bit, and And I got out of the car, and as I got out of the car, one of the guys, one of the helpers that helps around the place, come over and said, "Oh, Brett, Jack wants to see you in his office." So I just went weak at the knees. I'm thinking, "Oh, what have I done?" And walked in and sat down, and he just said, "Look," he said, "I'm not going to play you this week." And I said, "Oh, Jack, I've missed a game for 2 years." He said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "That's fine." He said, "But I don't want to play." I said, "Oh, I want to play." And he said, "Well, if you want to play, you can play reserve grade." He said, "It's either play reserve grade or have the weekend off." I said, "Okay, I'll have the weekend off." And the reason he did that is because he saw that I was just tired. I'd had too much football.
So it wasn't a form thing.
Well, I wasn't playing well, but he knew the reason I wasn't playing well was because I was tired. I've had too much football. He gave me the week off. He said, "Right, pick your bag up, go and get in your car and drive home. I don't want to see you till next Tuesday. Don't even come to the game." And having experienced that, I went through the same thing in 1987 after the 86 Kangaroo Tour. Only this time I had an idea what was going on, and I just thought, well, I didn't have a week off, but I knew it was just a matter of time. It'll pass, I'll be right again, and that's what happened. But that was the sort of coach he was. He read his players. He knew a lot about his players. He was the only guy I know that knew every player, even the kid that sat on the bench in the under-23s, he knew his name. We, as first-grade footballers, didn't necessarily know everyone there, but he, as far as he was concerned, that was his job. He knows everybody, and he had some funny sayings and some funny ways of doing things, and we had one day, David Lydiard was late for training. It was that late, we were actually out on the field, we'd warmed up and we're ready to start a ball session, and he comes flying down onto the ground. And at Granville Park you had the main oval, and then up on a hill there was 2 other ovals where reserve grade and 23s trained. So Dave's come running down, he's putting his boots on as he's coming in, and Jack pulls him to the side, and we could still hear what he's saying, and he said, "Mate, Dave's give him an excuse." And Jack always said, "If you're going to have an excuse, it's got to be one I've never heard." And he said, "I've heard all of them." So obviously the excuse that Dave gave him, he'd already heard. And he said, "Mate, what I want you to do is go up to the top oval and get me the boy Atkins," who was Graham Atkins, who was playing on the wing, Dave's position. Dave said, "Yeah, right, okay, Jack." And as he started to take off, he said, "Oh, by the way, while you're up there, introduce yourself to Coach Money." So in other words, you've just been dropped to reserve grade. Send him down, you stay up. That was, it was one of the things he used to do. But he was a great coach and a great person. And I always say, I think having experience playing under Jack Gibson, or under the coaching of Jack Gibson, not only made me a better footballer, but I think more importantly made me a better person because of the way he used to talk to us and the things he expected from us. And he had so much respect from the players. We'd often say, you'd see a brick wall there, and if Jack said, "I want you to run through it," well, we'd give it a bit of a shot. We'd know we couldn't do it, but we'd certainly try and do it. And that was the respect that he got from us.
He's a big, looking at him in photos, he looks like a big intimidating dude. He used to have that fur coat on. Was he used to smoke on the sideline too? Was that him?
I think he used to have a smoke every now and then. But that coat, I always wondered what he had inside it. Because you always heard stories about, he had connections with the underworld and all this sort of stuff, and he was an SP bookie, and you heard all the stories. All the older guys obviously knew a bit more, and
did that also made you respect him a bit more because he had that sort of side you didn't know about him?
Yeah. You think, I don't want to get on the wrong side of him because I mightn't be around too long, But certainly a wonderful man and a great coach.
So going through Origin as well, when did you burst on the scene there? 81, you said you played your first time?
82, I think. I was selected as a reserve, and I can tell you a good story there. I was, as I said, selected as reserve. I've gone to training and had the opportunity to train and talk to one of my idols. I had 2 idols as a kid because I played in the centres. Started my football career as a 5'8", but in teenage years I played in the centres, and obviously the 2 centres that are playing for Australia were Mick Cronin and Steve Rogers, and these are the 2 guys I idolised. And I was fortunate, obviously, when I played at Parramatta to play outside Mick Cronin, but it wasn't until I got got selected with the Origin side, they actually got to meet Steve Rogers, and I thought, well, this is great. Not too many people are able to get to meet or play with their idols, and I had this opportunity, and anyway, a young Mal Meninga was playing for Queensland in the centres, and I got talking to Steve Rogers, and I said, I'm on the bench, but I could come on in the centres, on the wing, even maybe fullback. But I said, Queensland have got this centre, Mal Meninga. I said, I've seen him play, but I've never played against him, and he looks like a really big unit, And I said, have you got any tips how I could sort of tackle him? And he said, mate, the best tip I can give you, he said, is when he's 5 metres away from him, he said, bend down, pick up some shit and throw it in his face. So you got to remember, this is a guy that I idolised. Here I was 21 years of age, and I'm thinking, okay, I believed it all. And anyway, it finally happened. I'm on the ground, I'm on the bench, and then here we are playing up in Brisbane, and Mal scored 2 tries, converted them, and then they've just scored a third, and he's lined up the kick, and I get a tap on the shoulder and said, you've got to go on. So I walked past him, and it's right on the sideline. I thought, shit, he was huge. But I had to put both my legs together to be the width of one of his, And so I've gone back there and standing behind the in-goal area, and Mal's kicked the goal. He's just puffed it running back. He looked massive. And we're going back to the halfway for the ensuing kickoff. So I've remembered what Steve Rogers had told me, and I'm walking down towards the halfway, kicking at the ground, having a look at it. And he said, what are you doing? I said, mate, there's not much shit here on the ground. It's pretty good condition. He said, mate, believe you me, he said, when he's 5 metres away with a head full of steam and his nostrils are flaring, he said, there'll be plenty of shit behind you, don't worry about that. And he was right. It was everywhere when I had to tackle him. He was just a monster of a man.
He wasn't as big as he was. The early 80s, he was still...
Yeah, still quite, but very solid.
Yeah, solid. Sort of filled out, He kept filling out as the years went on.
Yeah.
Machine. What was the rivalry like then? Because that was pretty early on when it sort of kicked off. 1980 was the big one.
Yeah, look, it was a tough game. I always say to people, and it's probably an unfortunate thing for rugby league in general, but for international rugby league, but because Australia was so dominant at international level, Origin was the big game you wanted to play, and it was, and I heard a guy mentioned this on radio, and he said, when you look at Origin, he said, obviously it's going to be a tough game because you've got arguably 26 of the best rugby league players in the world. And I thought, yeah, you have, we're playing against each other, and so there's not too many mistakes, not too many drop balls, so therefore there's not too many stoppages, and the game just goes. And I know the first time I played, we went out onto the field, and after 5 minutes I was gone. Puffing and blowing, struggling, and I think probably a bit of nervous energy, but just the speed of the game. And it took a while to get used to it, and it was, a really tough game. And obviously, as I mentioned before, you play Origin to try and get selected to play for Australia. So there's a lot at stake there, and so you're trying to give it your best. And obviously, if you win, you think you've got more of a chance to get selected than you do if you lose. And back then, of course, you could do what you want in Origin. It didn't matter. Were
you a fighter or a lover?
Oh, I'm a lover. Yeah, look at me. I can tell that. But then that was the way it was. And I remember, a couple of years after my debut in Origin, I was in the change rooms, and you could see all the forward pack standing in a corner having a bit of a chat. And I thought, well, this would be an interesting thing to listen to, these buffheads talking to each other. And I went up there and they were talking about what they were going to do in the first scrum. That was already planned. So-and-so was going to take him, you take that bloke, you hit him, I'll come in from this side. And it was all planned. And I remember we went out there and the first scrum packed, and Queensland had the ball. And I was against Wally Lewis, and I've looked at Wally, and he's looked at me, and he's sort of given me the signal to say, well, there's something going to happen here. I said, yeah, I know. So he fed the scrum, he gets the ball, I run up, we end up making the tackle, and then we get up and just look across, and there it is, it was on. The forwards were blowing, and I thought, oh, gee, and that's the way it was then. And everyone loved the game then. They loved to see that. And, it only happened in the first 5 or 10 minutes. It was on, and then everyone was happy, saw the fight, bang, now let's get back to football, and away we went. But definitely the toughest games I've ever played in Origin.
Yeah, that's my earliest memory of Origin, watching fight. Paul Harrigan, I remember him putting a few on Martin Bella. Yeah, they were my earliest memories.
And I was always amazed how, as you pointed out, I'm a lover, not a fighter. But
I pointed out, did I?
I was always amazed, like you see the forward pack, obviously, as I just said, they got into a blue, but then these guys get selected to play for Australia and now they room together. And I often wonder, how do they do that? Punch the hell out of each other in one game and then a week later they room together playing for Australia. And but that was the way the game is, You can belt someone one day and be best mates the next.
Did you ever cop any bad dog shots or anything? Like, does anyone ever hit you? Or
No, not because they couldn't catch me, really, but... No, I was pretty lucky, I went all right. I never really got knocked around, although there was one game I was playing, and it was at Lang Park, and I got caught just short of the line. As I've come down, I felt this thing hit me in the nose, obviously someone's fist, and next thing, my nose has just splattered. I broke my nose, and early on in the game, I had tackled Mark Murray, who was the Queensland halfback, and I've sort of tried to take him ball and all. His head hit me in the cheekbone, which split me there. And back then you didn't have blood bins, so you just kept playing. So after the game, I've had stitches on my cheek, a broken nose, my eyes were starting to go black. And I went out that night.
Of course you did.
And of course all the sympathy. And
worked in your favour, huh?
That was a wonderful way to end a tour.
So, like you mentioned there, Wally Lewis, like he always says that you're his toughest opponent. And like arguably, everyone you speak to reckons you should be in the immortal status. Like what's... coming from someone with as high praise as him saying that, what's your...
Yeah, look, I enjoyed playing against Wally, and we become good mates because of the Origin. We went away in '82 together. Wally was the vice captain and was the 5'8" at the time.
Well, you had the wood on him in Origin too, didn't you? Like in terms of wins,
we won more games when I was at 5'8" than we lost. But I mean, it wasn't just because I was at 5'8", obviously.
Come on, you can say that now, why not?
The players around, but yeah, probably it was, But we went away together on the Kangaroo Tour, and I ended up playing 5'8" and kept Wally out of the test team. But he was great on the tour, And of course, leading up to the Origin games, a lot of publicity. We did a lot of that sort of thing together and got to know each other a lot more and just become great mates. And I enjoyed playing against him. And I never had a problem with people. People would say, "Oh, well, Wally Lewis is a better player." I said, "Well, that's fine. I'm just pleased that I was mentioned in the same breath." They say, "Oh, Wally Lewis, Brett Kenny." I mean, you had blokes like Terry Lamb, and was just as tough. And I know when I played Terry Lamb, I used to treat that game the same as I treated playing Wally Lewis. But yeah, it was always Wally Lewis, Brett Kenny, or Brett Kenny, Wally Lewis, depending on which side of the border you come from.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just had a good time, and as I said, enjoyed playing against him and I think he brought the best out of me. You knew you had to play well to try and get out. There was no way in the world I was going to be able to tackle him on my own. He was too big for me.
He's a big unit, eh?
Yeah, he was too big and strong for me, and I had to sort of just, from scrums, just sort of take him ball and all, and hopefully blokes like Wayne Pearce or Ray Price come in and hit him around the legs and that. But I mean, I had him for speed, but not for strength.
Show and go. Little dummy. Used to pull that at our touch footy warm-ups at training all the time.
Oh, with you blokes, it wasn't hard,
Where did he get his name, the King? Is that? It's not got to do with footy, does it?
I don't know. I don't know. No. I think it. I don't know. I don't know where he got it. Someone in Queensland obviously give it to him.
Yeah.
It might have been after Origin.
I heard a rumour, but I'm not going to say it if it's not true. So, but
yeah,
is it the king? Is it not the King of Queensland? It's like
I don't know. I've only ever known him as a king.
Yeah.
And I thought he might was a king of Lang Park or something, but I don't know. I don't know. Now
actually, that's what I want to ask you. Where's Bert come from?
Well, because I look. very similar to Bert Reynolds.
Oh, is that what it was?
No, it had nothing to do with that. It was.
Because I was looking at your name, I'm like, Brett Kenny, and I'm like, your middle name's Edward?
That's correct.
Yeah, so we're not Ed.
Part of
Bert,
royalty.
Part of royalty.
But yeah, no, it actually it happened in the '82 Kangaroo Tour, where we went to sporting goods manufacturer Puma to get some gear, and back then Adidas sponsored the tour, but they only gave us one pair of boots and a pair of joggers, for 3
Times
months.
are tough, huh?
3 months in England in the middle of winter, and you think, geez, it's not going to help us. So I think Ray Price ended up organising for us to go to Puma, and we got all that. We got some gear. So what happened was we're in the foyer area, and they would call out 3 or 4 names, and you'd go into the warehouse, get your gear, and come back out. So when they've called out my name, instead of saying Brett Kenny, he said Bert Kenny. Well, that was it. Everyone had a bit of a chuckle with it, and the guys started calling me Bert for the remainder of the tour. And then the Parramatta guys, when we come back home, went back to training, they just kept calling me Bert, and everyone did it, and it just stuck. And some people think it's my real name. They don't realise it's Brett. But that's how it was. So it's nothing.
I don't know if I ever asked you that. I was looking at it today, I'm like, where the fuck where's Bert come from? I was like, yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Fun fact.
Exactly. Nothing too exciting.
So like the back end of your career was, I remember you talking about, you heard about Super League rumours and that starting then. And when did you finish up? About 93?
I finished in 93, but there was talk then, and I think it ended up starting in about 95. But there was feelers coming around, and
were you trying to hold out for the big
well,
bucks?
I would have liked. I wish I had thought, I could still go another season, because I probably would have then switched to Super League, just taken the money and gone. But as it was, I retired and missed out. Yeah, missed out on it.
What was like? Because the pay obviously was a lot different to when you were playing.
Well, the guys, like the biggest contract I signed was for 200,000.
For 1 year?
For 1 year, and that was the last year I played. And I mean, that when you think about it, that's how ridiculous it is with rugby league. It's been like that, since God was a boy, that you never seem to sign a contract for less than what you're on the year before, and you get older, so you're nowhere near as good. Like here it was 1993, I would have been 32. I was nowhere near as good as what I was in 1986 when I won the Golden Boot Award, and yet I earned more money. that's how ridiculous it was. But with Super League, you like, as I said, I signed a contract for 200,000. I had to play for Australia before I could get that money, and like I was an international, and guys who were playing reserve grade were getting paid 300,000 from News Limited and Super League, 300,000, and they were playing reserve grade. So I thought, that was where all the money it just came in, and that's when they become professional, and they looked after them. Look, I know there was a lot of talk about whether Super League was good, bad or indifferent, but I think I looked at it from a player's point of view.
It was unreal, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, I mean, you can understand the way they went about things probably wasn't the best, but from a player's point of view and having experienced what it was like before that, and thinking, well, yeah, now they're looking after these guys. When they're flying anywhere, they're flying business class and not at the back of the plane. They've been looked after, been treated properly. They've had superannuation done for them where we had to do that ourselves. The players were looked after a lot better, and I thought that was a good thing for me from Super League. And then obviously now the guys are reaping the rewards because it's just continued on. It's all become one and become NRL, and the money's just great for some of these guys. You look at what they earn and you look at their ability. Some of them will be going, you've got to be thankful you're getting what you're getting. But the money is very good now, and these guys, I think, have got to realise that they're very fortunate that, one, they're getting good money. They probably would never be able to earn that money outside of rugby league, and two, they've been able to play something full time, not have to work as well.
Did you work most of your career?
I worked through my whole career. I had to work and play, and
even when you're on the big bucks, the 200 at the end.
Yeah. See, for us, like, the money back then was very good, But unfortunately, we got paid twice a year.
Oh, yeah.
So, and
That's a bit rough, eh?
well, it was. You look at it. Let's say you sign a contract for $100,000 a year. Now, back in the 80s, that was a lot of money. We used to get a cheque in August, 1st of August. So we'd get taxed on that as well, and then you'd put that in with your tax the following June, because you'd also get another cheque in October. So we would receive the cheques and we would have had tax taken out of it, and then we declare it with our tax in the following June and get taxed again. So out of that 100,000, you're probably lucky to finish up with 45. So, the money was great, but the way it was all paid was the thing that cost us. And and even then, we used to have, you'd have a game like the National Panasonic Cup, or what they call the Renk Arena big game on a Sunday night, and there was always a prize for the man of the match.
Did you jag a few of them?
Yeah, got a few, and it was good back then. Like, especially if you just bought a house, all I bought for our lounge room was the lounge. I'd won a TV, won a stereo, won a VCR, did this, won all that, But the thing was, you got taxed on it. So all those prizes that you won.
They didn't tell you that?
No, they don't tell you. They don't say, well, you've got to pay tax on that. So I never bought it, And that was what happened. And I think one year, Ray Price, I think it was 86, won the National Panasonic Player of the Year. I think got something like $10,000 worth of National Panasonic product, and then had to pay tax on it. And,
Taxman get you, eh?
Oh, that was the thing. And I say to people, they say, it must have been great when you were playing. I said, it was. It was great. I said, but the problem was, people didn't realise that those prizes that you won, you were given. You didn't play to win those prizes. Yes, you played to get paid, but those prizes that we won, you've got to pay tax on them. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Surely it's not like that now. When they get the VB Man of the Match award, what's that go to? Oh, that goes to charity, doesn't it?
I think so, yeah. The amount of money they earn now, they don't really need to have a Player of the Match award.
So the back end of your career, did you know what you were going to transition to do after footy?
No, not really. It was a bit tough. I was working at the time. I was working for Berry Fruit Juices and just went, back to work. I played my last game against Balmain, the Tigers, and Monday morning got up and went to work. And I always remember
hungover.
Sorry,
were you hungover still?
Oh, a little bit. I was a bit tired, but I remember getting a phone call. I think because mobile phones had not long come in, and I got a phone call from 2WS, the radio station, and they were actually quite surprised I was at work. They didn't think they said, we thought they'd give you the day off. You played your last game of your career the day before, and said, no, it's the way it was. You had to get up and go to work. And
how'd you find that? Because you were like one of the top dogs, you know what I mean? Like you were up there with one of the greats. All right, now this is just life, no footy. How'd that feel?
It was hard initially, You'd get used to, like as you would have done, you got used to your training nights, and I'd come home on a Tuesday and Thursday night. We trained, and usually Saturday morning if we played Sunday, and so you'd come home Tuesday from work and you'd be sitting around for a little while, and then you'd go off and get yourself ready, get in your car or truck and drive to training. So when I'd retired, I would get to that stage on a Tuesday where I'd start to be thinking, what am I going to do? Because I was so used to having to get my gear together and ready to go to training, and now I didn't have to. And it was hard to get used to that. It probably took me 12 months to get around it, and at the same time too, I did put a fair bit of weight on because I was still eating the same. I couldn't understand, I couldn't work it out. I think, hang on, I'm not eating any more than what I was eating before. But I forgot, I wasn't training. And so after that first 12 months, I got back into doing a bit of training myself, try and get the weight down. And
did you substitute footy with anything? Did you?
No, not really. I just had the time off and
the feet up.
Did a little bit of coaching. I think the second year I was off with Parramatta, went down and helped Ron Hilditch, who was the first grade coach then, and I just looked after the backs. But then after, I would have. I often think back now that it would have been good if I'd decided to keep going. and then we've become a professional as coaches, and maybe I could have gone on and done something there. But it wasn't until probably 2001 and 2 that I was an assistant coach to Graham Murray for the City Origin teams, and then from there, that's when I went to Penrith in 2003, 4 and 5. 2004, 5 and 6.
So that was your big. So you went footy, then helping out a little bit. Then that was a big gap until you went into
coaching.
All right.
Coached up here and at Penrith, and had some good success. I did the SG Ball first, and I think we got beaten in the semi-finals. And back then, I think it didn't matter where you finished. If you got beaten, you were out. And I think we finished second or something. We got beaten, which meant we were out. We're now
I actually remember we lost to Newcastle.
Yeah,
when we got kicked. They had a pretty stacked side actually.
And we lost. We had Benny Harden was a halfback and got injured. He hurt himself at school.
He's like one of the coaches up. Is he still? I think he's still coaching it with Penrith, doing something there, or running the general manager in football or something.
Yeah, I think he just had another.
Yeah, he's got another 2 little boys. I think
another boy. Yeah, I noticed that. But I remember he was our halfback, and we.
He
lost
was a
him.
gun too. To give some context, so Benny Harden was like the next Andrew Johns. Everyone says that, but he actually was. Yeah. And I think he's had about 8 knee recos or something.
Yeah, well that was it. And we lost him during the week. He got hurt at school.
At school, that's right.
Played football and I learned a lot then from that one, because I made a couple of changes, and then I've realised later on we got beaten, and I thought, probably shouldn't have made as many changes just for the one position. So then, because we got beaten then, and then I think at the end of that season, I think I took the side away to New Zealand, under 19s, from Penrith, and we went over there, and we lost one game. We beat New Zealand's under 19s, which was good. Then we got beaten the following game, which I thought would happen because there was such a big build-up to play New Zealand. And then when I come back, Penrith said, we want you to coach it was Jersey Flag then, which is the equivalent now to the under 20s. And the first year we didn't make the 8, and then the second year we had a bit of control. That first year, John Lang was the first grade coach, and he wanted to see certain players playing, and so we had to sort of put players in, regardless of whether we thought that was our best team. We had to do that, and then and of course we didn't make the finals. And the following year he said, no, you guys are on your own, look after yourself. And first thing we thought of was these guys aren't fit enough. So then,
torture.
We had Grant Muscat and
Muskie.
Who was assistant coach, right?
The Kiwi fella?
No.
Nigel Wright.
Nigel Wright was
he was a decent footy player too, wasn't he? At Hull
played for Wigan.
Wigan it was.
And I still remember the night we had, and I think Muskie was crook, or he wasn't at training, and Nige took over, and we did a set where you had to start on the try line, and then you had to run to the 10-metre line, hit the deck, get back up, go back, then run to the 20-metre, hit the deck, and we did that up the field and back down the field, and new blokes were blowing up.
Remember actually Jay, who were talking about before.
And it blowing up and carrying on. And I remember after that session, we were in the change room, and I said, look, I was happy with the way things went. I said, you guys, you were bitching and blowing up about everything, but you still did it. No one stopped. And I said, this is the thing you'll remember this, and I'll tell you I'll let you know when it's time to talk about this session you did. And then that was the grand final. We won the grand final, and I thought, see, because of what you did back then.
We went on a good run, actually. We won our last 10 games or something. Came from
and I think we finished fifth
or sixth.
And then we had to keep winning, and then come up against Newcastle in the grand final, and
you're not going to bring it up, are you?
What?
I thought you were going to. Don't worry, we've probably forgotten. It's good.
Well, what'd you do?
No, when a coup stepped me, remember? Went through and scored that try, 100-metre try. You hooked me. You took me off, actually. Yeah, Put me back on, but
that was a smart move by me. I
What,
thought.
put me back on, finish off the game? Wow.
But the good thing about it, and you guys wouldn't have known this, but because we were behind at half time, and I think when I went in, I just said, look, I asked you all how you thought you went. You've all gone up to shit. I said, well, you won't get an argument from me. And I said, all you got to do is, I think I said that Newcastle have played the best they can. They can't play any better. We knew we could lift another 10%. We could play a lot better than what we did. And I said, you do that, you'll go out, you'll win the game. And I'm walking up the tunnel, out onto the ground with Nigel Wright, and I said, if we don't score first, we're gone. And luckily we did.
Faith, eh?
We scored first. I think Michael Jennings scored. I think Jeff Daniela made a break up the sideline, passed it back inside to Michael Jennings, and we scored. And from now on in, that was it. And I remember we put him on, and I said to him, like I was on the sideline.
You weren't going to play him actually that week, remember? No. And he came up to you and said, "Look,
he wanted to play."
Yeah, I remember him telling me.
And then, so I've got older and I said, mate, when you get out there, just create hell. Just belt the living daylights out of him.
He was a real dirty player.
Oh yeah, and that's what he did. He went out there and he just knocked blokes around, and there was a couple of guys that Newcastle had that were pretty dominant, and he just belted them. And then I think he ended up coming up with a try.
Yeah, he scored the winning try.
Yeah, won us the game. So,
what about the difference between being a superstar footy player to going into coaching? What did you find difficult about that? Because a lot of people think, all right, you're a gun, gun player, you're automatically going to have heaps of success as a coach.
I had no problems whatsoever.
Yeah.
But to me, the biggest problem is your communication. Just being able to get what's up in your mind out and be able to explain it so everyone can understand. I think that's half the problem with guys, but they've got it all, they're great players, but they just, while they've got it all up here in their mind, they find it difficult to explain to other guys as to actually how to do it, and in a lot of ways explain it in simple terms. And that's probably the only difference between how coaches become great coaches is just because of their communication skills and the way they can explain things and break things down and make it simple for guys and just say, this is all you've got to do. But sometimes and I think for me, having played under Jack Gibson and John Maney was always good. You learn a lot from them, and I think I mentioned earlier where Jack used to know the names of every player, and he knew the different things that those players do, and that's the thing. He always said, it's a team sport, but it's made up of 13 individuals. So you can't yell at this guy and yell at that guy, because the first guy you yelled at, he responds well for that, but you yell at this guy and he goes into a shell. So you've got to learn and look at your players and see what they're like and know that, yes, I've got to give it to this guy and he'll respond to it in a positive way. This guy here, I've got to sort of nurture him and say, mate, you're going all right, even though I think he's playing like a busted ass. You say, well, mate, you're going okay, blah, 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 and well, he'll come good with that. So I think that's another thing that you've got to sort of look at. Coaches will always look at that.
Like a man management.
Man's management. And I think really, when you look at the EPL in England, they've got it right when they call them managers, because reality is that's probably what you're doing.
Imagine the egos you got to deal with there.
Well, and you look here and you think, God, well, even with you guys, I remember at one stage where there was a bit of a problem in Penrith. Some of the guys had gone into shops and expected to be looked after and served straight away and were carrying on, and I think, and word got back to us, and I think we got everyone together, and I said to you, look, yes, you're playing for Penrith, but you're playing under 20s. God, you're not playing first grade. You're all carrying on as if, well, not everyone, but you're all, carrying on as if you expect everyone to do everything for you. And I said, you don't do that. I said, the first thing you've got to do is offer to pay. And if they want to give it to you, they'll go, no, don't worry about it. But a few guys apparently expect, hey,
That wasn't me, by the way.
I play under 20s for Penrith, so you should give me that for nothing. You think, oh, please.
Well, that's one thing I always talk about when we go back and reminisce on our footy days or speak to people about is like when we were playing under 20s and with you as the coach, it was like you said, you kept everything really simple. Like it wasn't rocket science what we're doing, but the main thing was, and this must be what you've mentioned from like you got it from Jack, is like the boys would run through a brick wall for you. Like that year was so fun. Like that's out of like all the years I played footy, that was probably the best year we had. The boys were tight, like the coach and staff, we had a good laugh.
Yeah, look, that was the thing. That's what I looked at, and I always say to people, when I was a player, I was never one to take things too seriously, and I was always the one that wanted to have a bit of a laugh at things and crack a few jokes or whatever. And I think that's what I was trying to explain to you guys. You've got to learn to be able to switch on and switch off. So we say, okay, this is what we're going to do now, do this ball session, and we do it. And then we might start to do something else, and someone might drop a ball or slip over, and it might look, we have a bit of a laugh, we have a bit of a joke, carry on a bit, and then go, right, well, that's finished now let's get back to do it. So now you've got to switch off from there and go straight back into the training session. No more laughing and talking and carrying on, we bang into that. And if something else happens, we have a bit of a laugh again. But that was, to me, that's the whole idea. You want guys to enjoy what they're doing, and obviously when you've got young kids, you want young kids to enjoy what they're doing, and you want them to finish training but don't want to go home. They want to keep going. And so, no, that's it, we're finished. So they're keen to come back the next night or in 2 nights' time. They want to come back to training because they enjoyed it. You haven't run them ragged and you haven't done too much where they're starting to get bored. And as you guys are 19, 20-year-olds, similar sort of thing. You've got to keep it interesting, short, sharp, have a bit of a laugh and get into it, do it right, and let's get out of here. You don't want to be and I know some of you guys would go down and you'd be watching videos of football games and everything, and I used to say, don't do that.
You weren't too big on the videos, were you? You were just like, it's pretty short, sweet, done, dusted.
Yeah, we might watch a video to pick up a few things, but at the end of the day, I would say to you guys, go home and enjoy yourself. You don't want to be rugby league 24/7. You'll go bonkers, and turn up for training, we train, we do what we've got to do, and let's get out of the joint. You don't want to be here too long, and that's the way I looked at it and thought, well, it's just...
Got to keep that fun in it still, entertainment.
And just have it where guys aren't going to get bored, And I remember one session there, we had an absolute shocker. We're dropping balls, doing everything. In the end, I just said, that's it. Finish it, because we weren't achieving anything. We were still dropping balls. We weren't getting any better. It was actually getting worse. And so let's can it, come back Thursday night, see what happens, And
do you think with like footy these days, like all levels, they try and do way too much? Like you said, like just keep it simple, boom, boom, in, out, get what you got it done. Do you think they can overcomplicate things a lot, spend too much time on it?
I think so, And
is that like got to do with the pay part? Because you're getting paid so much, you got to put so much time into it?
I think a lot of times that's what happens is they look at what they're getting paid and say, well, we've got to justify why we're getting this much money. And you go, well, to me, you got to get results to justify why you're getting so much money. It doesn't necessarily mean, and in saying that, doesn't mean that you've got to train for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. You just got to get the results, and if that means training twice a day and 2 hours a day for 2 days, and you get the results, so be it. And that's what it's all about. It's just working on different things, seeing where the problems are, and then saying, well, we've got to work on this, get it sorted, and know what you're going to do before you get out there. And when you get out there, you just explain, this is what we want to do. I mean, I watch the games now, and you look at guys catch and pass the ball without looking at where they're passing it. 9 times out of 10 it goes to the guys, but a lot of times it won't. And sometimes it costs them the opportunity to score points. And I remember watching a Roosters game, and they had 4 players outside Luke Keary. They look, he's a try coming here. He's caught the ball, passed it without looking, and went behind a lot of them. So there's 4 points missed out on. And this is just basic football. That's things you teach kids. Look to where you're passing the ball, and these guys, first graders, don't do it. And I often wonder sometimes if they stop practicing the basics because now they're professional. They don't need to practice the basics. They look at, we do this now. And you go, well, half of you can't catch a ball and the other half can't pass it properly. And that's just basic football.
Do you wish you stuck at coaching?
So?
Do you wish you stuck at it, kept at it?
Well, I look at it now, I wish I had it because I would have liked to have sort of gone on a bit. I'd still like to be involved and possibly be an assistant coach. And just do that. And who knows? If I'd like to do that first. And if it got to the stage where I thought, I reckon I could handle being the head coach, if there was an opportunity come along, I'd probably try and do it. But other than that, I'd be happy just being an assistant coach. When you look at it, assistant coach doesn't have the media ringing him every Monday asking what's going on and all that sort of stuff. So if the side goes well, you can always say, well, I worked on that with the boys. And then if they go too well, you say, no, I had nothing to do with that.
Point the finger.
Yeah.
Well, I got one of my good mates, Cameron Serraldo, who's been on here. He's I always say that to him, like, fuck, mate, why would you want to be a head coach? And he sort of fell into the role. Like, he wasn't an ambition at first.
Yep.
But just the scrutiny these days with social media and all that, I was like, fuck, why would you bother?
Yeah, I know.
Look at Seabold.
I think a lot of it's got to do with the way you are as a person and the way you react to situations and what you want to achieve out of coaching. I always look at it and think maybe sometimes I was looking at coaching in the wrong way. To me, it was the money side of it, saying, well, look, I'm not smart enough to earn $200,000 a year outside of rugby league. I could coach and probably get $200,000 a year for coaching. I couldn't do that away from rugby leagues, and that was why I wanted to look at coaching. It's probably the wrong way to be. It should have been, looking at, I want to help people, as I do. I like to, I look at Parramatta at the moment, and there's a lot of talk about the wingers and their defence and they're coming in, and I look at it and think, well, I reckon I could fix that up in a day. Wouldn't be a problem, but I just think, they've got to go back to just doing basic stuff, and it's quite simple. The game's not that hard. I remember coaching in 2010, I coached Wenty, which is Parramatta's reserve grade side, and we were at Parramatta Stadium at the time, and we were up in a room.
Was that 2010?
2010, and we were in a room there. We'd had a few bad games, and I said to guys there, I said, look, what I want to do, just say we've got a guy from Russia standing here beside me, and he wants someone to explain to him the game of rugby league. What do you got to do? He says, anyone reckon they could tell him? And I knew no one would put their hand up, so I said, well, I'll tell you what I'd say. So, mate, you've got the football, one team kicks off to the other. The team that's got the ball's got 5 chances to try and score a try. If they look like they can't score, they'll kick it on the 6th time. And I said it'll either go kick it long if they're at their own end of the field, or they'll kick it high if they're at the other end of the field. And I said, the team that hasn't got the ball, their job is to try and stop these guys from scoring. And then when they get the ball, they do the same. And I said, would that be fair enough? And they're going, oh, yeah. And I said, well, why couldn't we do that on the weekend? And that's basically it. That's all it is. The only reason we have set plays or anything is to try and confuse the defence, because we've only got 5 tackles to try and score. If we had unlimited tackle, they just run the ball up, just keep running the ball up. And that, to me, that's what you do. And it's just a numbers game. You have a look and we say, well, they've got 5 defenders here and we've got 7 attackers. Why don't we have a shot at it? See what we can do. And then put something on to try and confuse the defence a bit, And so if they start to slide, we've got to look at doing something, maybe come back in field or whatever. But that's the only reason you have the plays, is because we've only got a set number of tackles to try and score a try. Nowadays, it's almost like they just play out for 5 and then kick and hope the guys they score off a kick.
That's true, eh? A lot of tries off kicks. Like, I think Matty Johns always brings this up when he talks about Penrith winning the grand final in, was it 03 when they won? They beat Roosters, 03, I think.
I'm not sure.
And he goes, John Lang said, when look, they're a gun team. I don't know how we're going to beat them. Just run harder and tackle harder. And that's what he goes. That's what they did. They just simple. Pretty much what you're saying.
Yeah,
keep it simple.
The game is just, it's a very simple game. You don't have to try and make things too technical, And when they come up with all these stats, there's so many. What is it?
Oh fuck! I don't know.
Pre-hit
There's a stat for a
meters
stat.
or something and whatever, and the fullback gets a lot, and you think, well, there's any wonder they kick it to him, and then he runs 25 metres before they get to the defence. They said he'd run all those times, and statistics are good, but you can only get out of them what you want. Sometimes I don't. I always remember Jack Gibson telling us a story about a guy when he was at South playing. Charlie Frith was a front rower and a damaging defender. When he hit you, you knew you were hit. And after the game, he'd only made he'd probably made 8 or 9 tackles in the whole game. And one of the media guys said to Jack, you must be a little disappointed with the defensive effort of Charlie Frith. And he said, why is that? And he said, well, he's only made 8 or 9 tackles in the whole game, the entire 80 minutes. And Jack said, did you see the first tackle he made? He said, yeah, I did. He said, I ironed the bloke out. He ended up getting taken off. He said, well, now you know why he didn't make too many more, because no one had run at him. That's exactly right. The stats said he only made 8, but when you look at what he did, and now you know why, because you can't make a tackle if no one runs at you.
All right, I got a couple of questions sent through, Bert. So one of them was your best Mad Monday story. One that you could tell.
Oh, jeez. I don't know. We never used to do a great deal, and Mad Monday.
Well, it could be Trip Away or Mad Monday story. Anything that pops out.
We had, trips away were pretty good. I remember there was one guy. We went up to the Gold Coast, and one of the guys, we flew up, and one of the guys had come up later. He flew up, and we'd gone to a nightclub, and we're all in there having a few drinks, and they had like a dance. Obviously had a dance floor, and you could walk from the dance floor. You walk up a couple of steps on the next level. So they had rails along that level, and one of the guys he'd got there. He'd only been there for probably half an hour. Got on the drink, was blind drunk. Next thing you see him jump over the handrail onto the dance floor, doing some fancy sort of dancing, and then disappears. No one ever saw him. The next morning he got up, got on the plane, went home.
Oh, yeah?
That was it.
Done.
He was done, You think, But we used to, we'd go down, it was myself and Stan Jurd used to go into the Gold Coast shopping centre, and we'd have a walk around and maybe buy a few things. And on the way back to the motel, there was always a pub there. So we'd...
There's
always a pub, and there it was. And Stan would say, how about we have 6 before 12? So it was 6 schooners before 12 o'clock. Now, sometimes we got there, it was 10:30, so that wasn't too bad. One day we arrived, and we didn't realise the time. He said, we'll go and have another 6 before 12. We did this every day. It was 11:30. So in we go, and we're shotting them down, and of course then we staggered back to the motel. But we used to do that every day. It was good. It was just one of the things, we used to do. But Mad Mondays, it was never like what it is, like when you guys were playing, and we used to go down. After the grand final, we would, obviously spend a little bit of time together at the club. At probably 4 o'clock in the morning before everyone sort of slowly got out, and it was just us, and we were able to sort of just talk about what we achieved, and then we'd sort of head home, and you'd only be home for a while, and come back, and we'd go down to Brian Hambley's pub in Parramatta and spend the day there, drinking and talking to people, and that was it. And there's no phones or anything, so you didn't have to worry about that. And I always had the women chasing me. But,
It's the mullet, mate.
That's what it was.
Oh, that's mullet, the mo. What about the best, or I guess the person who influenced you the most throughout your career, player?
Well, I'd say Mick Cronin. I mentioned earlier. I think the way, because of the fact that he looked after me when I started playing first grade, and it enabled me to sort of grow into the position as a centre and just get used to playing first grade and the speed of the game and the toughness of the game. I didn't get knocked around too much, and you know, as I got older, obviously I got a little bit bigger and stronger, and it helped me. And I've always said that. I thought, you know, if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have been able to achieve what I did.
Fondest memory from rugby league?
Oh, geez, there's a few. I mean, obviously the 81 grand final. That
2006 grand final?
Sorry?
2006, under-20s coach, surely?
Well, that's one of them. I mean, I remember, yeah. I actually got... Funny thing was, in that too, that I got told by the manager, John, to bring a set of clothes, another set of clothes with me. I said, what for? You know, I just better bring another set of clothes. And just as well I did, because it's when you've all got the big drum of Steminade and just Powerade or whatever, and just tipped it over the top of me while I was doing an interview with Channel 9. And so then I've had to go and have a shower and change into the clothes. But that was certainly a great memory. And as you said earlier, it was a lot of fun. We had a good time and that. And you know, for me, it was good to see you guys sort of move up, go up into the grades. And, you know, some of you went on and played first grade, others went on and played rep football and everything. And it was good to... I felt very proud to say, you know, that I played a part in that. I say to people, you know, it wasn't because of me that they were able to achieve what they did, but I said I'd like to think I played a small part in helping them get there, and so yeah, it was great. It was a good time that we had, and it was just good to see you guys move up to the next level and that, and obviously playing in the 81 grand final, which was the very first grand final I'd ever played in. I never played in a grand final before that. And
SCG back then, wasn't it?
SCG, and I think they had about 40,000 people there, and it was great, you know, to come away, and in particular to win the first one for Parramatta was good.
Is that the one where you scored a couple of tries?
Scored a couple of tries in three of them.
Oh, and all three, was it? Yeah, right.
So I scored 2 in 81, 2 in 82, 2 in 83. So there was they're saying now will probably never get beaten. And a lot of teams nowadays struggle to play 2 years in a row. Yeah. The Roosters have probably a chance this year to play in 3 grand finals in a row, but then there's no one that scored 2 tries in the first 2. So, but yeah, so that was obviously another one, and playing Origin, in particular 1985, where we won the series for the first time. And obviously playing test matches, going away on a Kangaroo Tour in 82 was another highlight. So it was good.
All right, Bert. So that's about a wrap, mate. Went a little bit over time.
There it is.
Do love a chin wag, but like you obviously had some health scares and that, man. Wish you all the best with that. Look, you're looking pretty fit actually. Still hitting the gym or what?
No, it's all natural.
All natural. Getting the budgies out down the beach, up the coast there.
Yeah.
So thanks for jumping on, Bert. Top bloke, like I always say that, legend. On and off the field, still a good sort. But thanks, man. Really appreciate you jumping on, and I wish you all the best. Hopefully you stay nice and healthy, brother.
All right, not a problem. Thanks. It was great being here.